What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. This is going to be part 1 of 6 parts of a workflow video of how I post-process family photos or any photos that I work on, and I will show you that on my computer here for a screen capture and a voiceover. So let's get to it. Alright, welcome to the screen capture for the workflow. This is me pulling back the curtains a little bit and showing the BTS or behind the scenes of how I do my edits for family photos. Now, this doesn't only apply to family photos but can also be applied to weddings. It would be the same process on culling and editing the photos, but it's a little bit more simpler. For this particular family photo session, I had the opportunity to capture their family last October. A little backstory for Christine and her family. I was attending a magazine launch earlier this year, and there was a little raffle for businesses to promote. I put my name in the hat to promote a discounted photo session with me, whether that be family photo session, a solo portraits, corporate headshots, whatever it is, it will be discounted. It is a discounted photo session. Christine and her husband Leo won. Hold on, there you go. That's Christine and Leo. So Christine and her husband Leo won the raffle, and we are in contact during the event and planned a session through messages and was basically ready until COVID lockdown hit us, which is very unfortunate. We had to put the session on hold until further notice, however. But fast forward in October, she sent me a message asking when we could continue the planned photo session that we had, and in a few days we rebooked. As you guys can tell, these images were taken in October during the fall season. Now, if you're not familiar with Calgary weather, let me give you a quick rundown. Usually, after a great Calgary summer, we skip fall and go straight to winter altogether. I mean, snowfall on the first or second week of quote-unquote fall, and snow won't melt until June the following year, give or take a few weeks. However, this year is a bit different because Calgary actually enjoyed one of the rarest fall seasons to date that I have witnessed. The color of the leaves were changing slowly, snowfall didn't arrive until the last few days of October, and everyone was out and about enjoying the season with COVID safety protocols in mind, of course. So as much as the color temperature in the camera goes, I didn't have to change a lot since the colors are the same that I like to capture. I set my white balance to 4850 Kelvin and forgot about it. The rest of the settings varied depending on multiple factors, and I did adjust according to the light. So for a few examples, we have a little bit of light shining through the shade. So this one's a good example here. Another good example is this one here. I readjusted my settings because this one's under the shade, so I had to readjust my not the ISO, the aperture and shutter speed for this one, and also maybe a little bit of the ISO. So as far as that goes, the white balance 4850 and just forgot about it, and then the rest of the settings vary depending on multiple factors and adjusted accordingly. So during post-processing, I do tend to adjust the same parameters over and over. So I found myself doing this on multiple occasions, on multiple portraits in the past, and I created my own preset inside of that. The preset is set to adjust the post-crop vignette a subtle amount, because a little goes a long way, I believe. A subtle noise reduction on the image is another setting that I set my preset to do. Even if I have a low ISO setting, I like to give an extra layer of smoothing to my images. For this particular image, let's see here, where was it? Actually, I will just do a 5-star because this whole session was already done and exported, and I already gave them the photos and whatnot. So this is more of an after effect of that photo session and edit. So let's say, for example, which one is a good one? I think this is a good example here. So for this one here, as you can see, I have a low ISO setting, and through my base preset, I still put a little bit of noise reduction right there. I don't know if you guys can see that, but at least it's right here in the corner. So I still do adjust a small amount of noise reduction. So the point of that is having to smooth out a little bit the photo. I am using a D750 and it's great in noise reduction and whatnot in itself in the camera, but just for a little bit of layer of smoothing, I adjust that. And aside from that, I also do a contrast adjustment. So a unit of 25 units, I think, is appropriate for my liking, for my images. I believe it's a good margin for my images. It pulls the blacks and shadows a little bit while giving a boost in whites and highlights. Again, a little goes a long way. The same goes to the clarity, vibrance, and saturation settings. So the clarity, vibrance, and saturation settings, mostly I don't touch that after the base preset have been applied, because I just like how the vibrance and the saturation combine their adjustments. And clarity is more of a little bit of sharpening on the edge, on the eyes, on the cheeks here. Anything that there's an edge on the image, it does that quite well on plus 10 units. So a little goes a long way. So I have my preset adjust to a little boost in its respective parameters. This image of Christine Leo is already rated at 5 stars. Like I said earlier, that these images were already given to them and submitted. So, and you know, after all that, I do all this videos and whatnot. And I'd like to show you guys a little bit of the BTS of how I do the post-processing for family sessions. So meaning I have gone through and post-process past the preset. So everything here is done. So for this particular image, let's go back to the group, and here, let's go through this one. So their eldest daughter, I had to adjust the preset on this, and again, it just shows that. So the highlights were lower. I completely took out the highlights because I think it was blowing off the highlights here. But again, ACP based preset, it adjusted on a contrast. Everything else was adjusted after the fact. So the base preset consists of the white balance, or sorry, the contrast of plus 25. Leave everything else on the adjustment here until individual 4-star ratings. That's where I usually go through that. And then the clarity, vibrance, and saturation settings, I set that to plus 10 units on vibrance, and another plus 8 on the saturation. I leave the tone curve alone until the individual photos that I take a look at. That's when I adjust those. The same thing goes to HSL, color, and black and white, but for the most part, I didn't touch this for this particular session. I didn't feel that it's necessary to do so. On the details, again, I add a plus 30 unit on the noise reduction. Again, like I mentioned earlier, it's more for smoothing, not really for taking out noise or grain in the images. Nikon D750 does a great, awesome job on low light performances, and I think this was taken in the afternoon, overcast day, and fall season. So a perfect setting for the camera itself. And then the post-crop vignetting, again, little goes a long way. Minus 10, plus 30 on the midpoint, and feathering, I do that a little bit more on a 65 from a 50 on the standard or default setting on the feathering. So I do that there. And then with that being said, I'm not here to bore you with my blabbering. The following portion of this video would be a time lapse, so hopefully guys that you learn something from this, or at least witness how I do my workflow post-processing. And I guess that's about that. Here we go.
Over the edge, feel like I'm floating through the air. The pain I felt is paid for, all is said and done. Oh, I am restricted, fixed upon the web. I need to kick the habit that my mind is breathing in. Break out, I've got to see. Spent all my life holding all of it closely. and I'm feeling exaggerated, that's what you assume. The story's over now, I must conclude. I am conflicted, watching where I step still, hanging in the balance, not the life I want to live. I want to take it all, standing tall, fear I weighed the person you are. Oh, break out, I've got to see. Spent all my life holding all of it closely. I played it innocent, a feel of discontent. I'm finally facing it all, fearless.
Alright, I'm glad you guys made it through the time lapse there. So as you saw in the time lapse, I did some adjustments on cropping, a few gradient and other radial filter adjustments, but those will be featured on a different video. I feel like this video itself is already long enough, and I'm just here to show you a quick BTS of how I do my post-processing workflow anyway. So for this portion of the video, I'd like to give or show you my thought process on the star ratings within Lightroom and how I organize the images step by step. So let's start with putting this on an equal rating and show you here. So first of all, I upload all the images, no ratings at all, and then I start culling this and putting them in a 1-star rating. Now for the 1-star rating, this will mostly be what do you call this? It's basically just a preliminary on my culling. So here for most of these are the ones that were part of the burst shots that didn't make it because A, I just didn't like the overall look of the image, or B, they were blurred or the focus wasn't on point for some of these particular images, or C, which is the most important one for me, is the composition just didn't work for me. That's the whole point of the 1-star here. And then I cull them again and go through it again and rate them for a 2-star rating. Now for the 2-star ratings are the images that I think are workable images, meaning they have the right focus, they have the right composition, or at least close to that composition, and overall the image works for me or otherwise can work for me. For example, I can see potential images through cropping or a little gradient adjustment to make a particular image look better. So after this, I go through it again and cull again and put those in a 3-star rating. Now for the 3-star ratings, these images are the ones that really boils down to what gets edited. So there is still chance to be cut from the final pics, but for the most part, they have quote-unquote passed that cut. Also, this is where the baseline preset applies. So for the most part, anything that's in a 3-star, I just go Control A and go to the development module in Lightroom and then just put my base preset, and that's all in the 3-star rating. That's where you could actually see, that's where I could actually see the potential of having the composition right through cropping, or let's say if I have to adjust something in the sky being blown out, or for a gradient filter. That's where the 3-star rating comes on. And again, I go through that and rate it again to become a 4-star rating. Now for the 4-star rating, now this one, there's only a few images here, but for the 4-star ratings, I take an individual look on the images and do adjustments accordingly. So this is where the cropping applies, or the gradient filters apply, and even the radial filters. So anything that is much more detailed and individual, that's where the 4-star rating comes in. And it really has to work before the step 5 or 5-star rating, because 4-star ratings is just one step, being the final image to be exported and submitted to the client. So that's where the 4-star rating here. Now what you see here is just the aftermath, or whatever is left over on the 4 stars. So again, like I mentioned before, this whole image set or this portrait session is already done, and these were the ones that were cut on the 4 stars and went and just got left behind for a 5-star rating. So it doesn't matter if I'm on a 1, 2, 3, or 4-star rating, they still have a potential of getting cut from the final set of images. Now moving on to the 5-star. So for the 5-star rating, the final stage of culling and editing, these images are the ones that make it through or make it to exporting. So no more editing in here, but that is not to say that I don't even review the images anymore. I still do review them. If I feel or see an image doesn't fit the mold, then I reconsider that said image and possibly put it back to the 4-star rating with a red color rating. So as you can see here, these are all green. So this means that all of these passed, and let's say for example I put this one on a red color rating, and then I put that on a 4-star. So if I go through the 4-star here, I know which set it belongs to. It organizes itself through Lightroom, and then I pick another set for this one and a replacement for that. Now if I don't feel anything that can replace it, then sucks for that image. So let's put this back a little bit here. I'll put this on green and back to 5 because that is part of that. So yeah, so that's going to be the process there. Then compare it to the set. Like I said, I compare it to the set of images that it belonged to. So once I'm satisfied with the images, I then just go through exporting. So once I go through here, I say, okay, so these images are fine, they're all 5-star and whatnot, and I go through them again, seeing if everything works out for lighting, composition, and all that good stuff, if I missed anything as well. So I go through that. But once I'm satisfied and it's all good, and I think this is 40, yeah, this is a total of 40 images out of 228. So that's so bad. I mean, I think I'm in the average amount of images that gets edited and processed and submitted on my personal average anyway. So after that, I just export, greenlight everything, and then save it and then put it on my online gallery. So there you go. That's how I do my culling and how I take advantage of the 4 stars or the star rating built in Lightroom. On parts 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, the rest of this series, I will show you how the color rating has benefited me in organizing 5 different families in one big photo session. So I'll see you guys, and that's about it. Let's get back to the studio. Alright, so that concludes our first video for our 6-part workflow series. If you guys like the video, make sure you hit that like button. If you have any comments, make sure you put that on the comment section, and I'll see to that I can read it, reply to it, or at least react to it. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to hit that notification bell icon for new videos. Until the next one, see ya.